It's truly almost a tale is almost time. A good anime with a good story comes along, and it seems like it actually has potential to, at the very least, be a seasonal talking point for many people. Unfortunately, due to the poor animation or just off animation it might have, it unfortunately gets sidelined because in this day and age, if you don't have good animation, you might as well go ahead and just kick rocks. And the anime that's been stuck in my mind that really has resonated with me with this particular situation, other than One Punch Man, which we already talked about, which is a whole different situation, is the anime that came out in winter 2025, Wandance. Now, I do actually want to start off by being positive. I actually really like Wandance's story and the message that it's trying to tell. The idea that there's this boy who's been traumatized by something he really wanted to do. And through the process of the entire story, trying to work up the courage through going to clubs and making friends and actually being hyped up to actually do that type of activity. And I actually think the story does a really good job in exploring not just that, but also other people's plight of wanting to be the best and the struggle behind that, or wanting to live with the potential of your predecessors, but also failing, and trying to stand out in the crowd, but not having the quality or ability to actually do so, and what you can do to do that. There are many different stories and many different type of messages that Wandance actually tries to push, and I actually really appreciate the anime for doing that. Now, it's not the clearest story to actually do that and weave the stories together well, but it does it in a setting I don't think we see much of in terms of the dancing world and the extracurriculars when it comes to that type of aspect, and it does it in a way that I think at least makes it stand out, at least with the subject matter. Kind of how like Yuri on Ice and Medalist use ice skating to tell their stories, and while the stories aren't completely different that we would see from anime, the image of figure skating and using that as a motive to get people interested, I think is the same thing that Wandance does with breakdancing. And I would love to make this all about the video where Wandance tells this amazing story and it does it well, and how different forms of topics that you could talk about with different subjects can really help elevate it, make you stand out within the anime community. Unfortunately, as you all know, that's probably not going to be the thing that we're going to talk about with Wandance. Instead, it's going to be the fact that the animation is not good within this show. And before I even go ahead and talk about the animation part, I do want to just throw something out there that I don't really know where a good place to put it in this video would be, so I'm just going to start it off by just being the first thing that I say. Why was Scatman in this anime? No, like actually, it genuinely baffled me to see a Scatman video being played as the main characters try to express themselves and how they're feeling in that moment. Meanwhile, Scatman is playing in the background. It is the actual video in black and white, and it just goes on for like 2 minutes. It doesn't stop. This is an actual thing that happens within the anime. I don't know if they had like copyright things to pay, or if this is just something that they were allowed to put in it. It just threw me the fuck off. I'm not saying they couldn't do it, but it was just a weird creative choice in my opinion. I don't know if that's the case. If there's a manga out there, if this is an original, I'm not 100% sure. It just threw me off, and I think it threw a lot of us off. But let's go ahead and actually get into the meat and potatoes of what this was supposed to be, and that's over Wandance's, particularly all the animation that has to do with the physical team. Because apart from some character styles that I will be talking about later in this video, I think overall Wandance's animation is fine. It's nothing super impressive, but it's nothing that I would call anything egregious, apart from the actual dancing. Because when I want to get invested in a character's backstory, whether it be them exploring their trauma, or them trying to be the best, or them just trying to stick out of the crowd with a sea of people, when I see them dance, I want to get invested in their story, and I want to get invested in the passion that they're putting in. Unfortunately, I can't really do that when the dancing that is presented to me looks like something from the PS2 era. And not in the aesthetically pleasing, oh wow, that fills me with nostalgia feeling. More like the, what happened, what did you do, and what was the creative decision behind any of this type of situation. Because when I want to try to get invested in the character's story and the character's background, this just takes me out of the immersion completely. But in all things considered, it's still really bad, to the point where I really couldn't believe in any of the characters or really sit down and immerse myself in the world, because every time I saw dancing, I would just either laugh, cringe, or both. And I usually don't try to say that, because with anime, there's just all different types of styles that you can look at across the industry. There's Trigger, who I will always suck the dick of. There's Mappa, that usually goes in standards. There's Wit, that goes into way more detail, and so on and so forth. Each studio and each place in the anime industry has their own different way of animating. So I completely understand why some people might not like other styles, but to an extent, that's very subjective. But when it comes to something like this isn't a subjective thing. This is just really bad. And sure, it does get a bit better later, but not to the point where it's still not immersion breaking and hurting the story that it's trying to tell. And I think the one thing that I hate the most about all of this is due to the fact that the actual dancing motion, the actual mocap motion, isn't actually that bad. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that apart from the actual rendering of it all, the mocap capturing is really good. Like, if you pay attention to the actual movements of what they're doing, they're actually busting it down really hard. Whoever was doing the mocap for all the dance breaking not only knew their stuff, but knew how to tear down the house at the same time. That wasn't only the good thing when it came to this anime. The music selection was not only good, but the way they explained musical beat and following the progression of it all in terms of breakdancing was actually really good and intuitive. It felt like one of those anime you can actually learn something from while at the same time enjoying the content that you were given. And again, the writing from characters to actual story was not super deep, but it was enough to at least want you to get invested. You wanted to root for these characters and you wanted to see them succeed. It's just kind of crazy to notice and mention the fact that one aspect of this anime could completely ruin all the hard work that everybody else does. And it really shouldn't. We should be able to acknowledge the good that this anime actually brings out with its actual story. Unfortunately, in this day and age, like I said before, animation is a big thing. When you have animes like Solo Leveling, Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, Frieren, and many others that are popping off so hard with its animation that some of these that lack the same amount of depth, or maybe even less in some cases, are able to pop off even harder and gain a very strong standhold within the anime community and the industry so much to the point that they're multi-million-dollar making IPs, and something like Wandance that, while maybe not to that regard, could have at least been some type of niche following or have something that would be appropriate to its level, is now ruined because one aspect of this anime is completely ruining it. Sure, there might not be other aspects I like the facial structure for some of the characters, specifically Wandance, give me that old 2000 feel that is really not good with the big old eyes and the weird separation of them, and some of the characters look pretty plain for the most part and just look beady-eyed and not great. But that's also a very subjective thing. There might be people who have a nostalgia for that feeling and really gravitate towards that. Those things, while I might not like it, wouldn't have ruined it for me completely when it comes to the story. I can look over a stylistic choice like that if the story is good, the character is good, and what it's doing is actually proper. But something as big as its rendering dance is very not good. Listen, I wanted to go ahead and like May. I wanted to go ahead and really give it a chance, because it is a story that I really resonate with as someone who also has those symbols as the MC. Unfortunately, I couldn't. The anime made one decision and it completely tanked any type of immersion, feel, or passion that you can truly get. It is really a lesson on how one thing can really kill an anime, and how every decision within an anime and what you do with it and how you make it is vastly important. Never forget that, because it can really sink or swim an anime depending on what you do.
I'm like so gay.